Today we're making a delicious, velvety smooth. Today we're making a chickpea curry. It's going to be a very good curry. It only takes about 15 minutes of time to put together. This recipe is not only quick and easy to make, but it's good on your budget, it's great for meal prep if you're into that kind of stuff, and it also happens to be vegan. And if you guys stick around till the end, I'll also make sure to throw in an extra recipe on how to make delicious cauliflower rice, which is a great low-carb, gluten-free alternative to traditional rice, which I've personally grown to love more than the real stuff. But enough chit-chat, to the kitchen. For today's recipe, I decided to go with leeks instead of onions, but you could easily swap them out or even use both if you wish. If you do go for leeks, you want to make sure you clean them from any residual dirt properly. To do so, cut off the root end of 2 or 3 leeks and cut their white parts in half going lengthways to expose the inner layers where the dirt likes to reside. Give these a good wash under cold running water and you have yourself squeaky clean leeks. Give them a rough chop and don't worry too much about the size, they'll shrink down when cooking anyways. Make sure you use as much of the green parts as possible to reduce food waste. Now let's move over to the stove and add our leeks to a large preheated pot set over medium heat along with 2 or 3 tablespoons of olive oil and a few cracks of salt. We're going to let these cook over low-medium heat for about 10 minutes, which gives us plenty of time to do some prep. Let's start by peeling and dicing 1 sweet potato into crouton-sized cubes. If you like a bit of a kick, slice up a chili of your choice. If you like it hot, keep the seeds in, if not, get rid of them. And we're also going to finely mince a thumb-sized piece of ginger and 4 or 5 cloves of garlic. You could alternatively spare yourself the chopping and grate these on a box grater or zester for a mushy pulp consistency. By this point our leeks should be soft, lightly caramelized and ready to take on the flavoursome additions we just prepped. Time to go in with our garlic, ginger and chili if you're using any, along with a teaspoon of ground cumin, a teaspoon of ground turmeric and last but not least a teaspoon of curry powder. We're going to cook our spices and aromatics with the caramelized leeks for 2 or 3 minutes to awaken their aroma and bring them back to life. Make sure you're stirring during this time since ground spices like to burn easily. To kill the toasting process, go ahead and dump in 2 full fat tins of coconut milk and give everything a good stir while scraping off any goodness stuck to the bottom. We're then adding 1 tin of rinsed chickpeas and the sweet potato we cubed a minute ago, along with 2 tablespoons each of tomato puree and peanut butter. And we're lastly topping up with a tin of water, stirring everything to combine well and bringing to a gentle simmer. We'll let this cook down for about 20 minutes until the sweet potato is fork tender and the liquid has reduced to a thick consistency. In the meantime, let's take a quick look at the cauliflower rice I promised you earlier. Around 125 grams or roughly 4 ounces of raw cauliflower florets per person is a good benchmark. I'm adding 500 grams or about 16 ounces to a food processor along with a teaspoon of salt and a few cracks of pepper and processing for a few seconds to a fine crumb consistency. Why thank you Martin, yet another recipe that requires a food processor. You shouldn't have. Alright, calm your beans. There's an easy way to do this without one. Box graters out. Do not dare tell me you haven't got one. You want to grate your florets over your desired setting without pressing too hard or they'll turn into strips or even worse, mush. And voila, food processor free raw cauliflower rice. But let's bring this to a more consumption friendly state. Heat up a large pan over high heat and add 2 or 3 tablespoons of ghee or a high smoke point oil such as sunflower or vegetable and let that sucker come up to infernal temp. When your oil is as hot as Satan's balls, go ahead and add in your cauliflower rice and start moving it around as soon as it hits the pan to coat evenly in the fat. After everything's been coated, I like to leave it be in a tight layer so that the bottom toasts nicely paella style while the top remains unexposed. This will give you a sweet caramelization on the bottom and a much desired contrast in texture. Throw in a handful of chopped dried fruits such as raisins or cranberries and you have yourself a basic but epic low carb gluten free cauliflower rice. Set aside and let's check on the progress of our chickpeas. If everything's gone to plan, by now we should have a thick creamy curry that is begging to be devoured. Now's a good point to check for seasoning and adjust as needed. I'm salting to taste and adding the juice of half a lime for an acidic boost. Check for seasoning once more and let's serve this up with some of our beautiful cauliflower rice. A couple of generous ladlefuls of our thick luscious curry, a scattering of some toasted hazelnuts for some extra crunch, and last but not least some fresh chopped parsley leaves for visual contrast and some herby presence. And this friends is our delicious, nutritious and all of the above chickpea sweet potato curry with cauliflower rice. This tastes even better than it looks, but the flavors develop even further overnight so you can easily meal prep for the week ahead. But by all means please don't take my word for it, make your own.